Hello, welcome to Brighton Blockchain. Please put your hands together. Yay. I hope we're going to have a very nice night tonight. We've got a lovely talk from the amazing Tiger coming up. Before we do, I'm going to hand over to Maya to tell us about Freedom Works, this lovely venue that we're in. Please give her a big round of applause.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming. So yeah, my name's Maya. I'm the community manager here at Freedom Works. What Freedom Works is a co-working space, and we're all across the southeast. So we've got space here, Worthing, Hove, Horsham, Gatwick, Crawley, yeah, all of those places. We offer everything from like pay-as-you-go hot desks to meeting rooms, to dedicated desks, and then to private offices as well. And part of my job, what I do is trying to build a community. So do that through doing regular events with community groups such as Silicon Brighton, which we love to do as well. And then we put on like community networking events in the day. Like today we had cake sale and things like that. So yeah, try and do that, and free beer Fridays as well, which are really popular too. We're also in partnership with Barclays Eagle Labs, who are a great group who can offer our members free business support as well. So yeah, that's basically us in a nutshell. If anyone's interested, I have left some flyers over there, and yeah, you can get in touch. Thank you.
Amazing. And of course, we are also supported by Silicon Brighton, and now Cameron is going to tell us all about Silicon Brighton and all the good work that they do.
It's quite a tall order for everything, but I'll give it a go. So yeah, my name's Cameron. I work in community and events at Silicon Brighton. We host lots of meetups like this across the cities of Brighton and Hove in the digital tech sector. We're also running a big conference, Evolve, which is going to be, no, that's all right. I only lost it in front of me. It's all good there. But yeah, so it's going to be an extraordinary day of tech and innovation and community, and above all else, fun. It's going to be a 4th of July as well, so that'll be a brilliant day in the sun as well. It's at the Brighton Dome. We're just putting together our last sort of exhibitors and sponsors. So if you or anyone you know would like to be involved with this, please scan one of the QR codes or get in touch with myself or Pilar as well. It's going to be a brilliant day. And moving on to some of the more meetup groups that we support as well. If that changes, don't know, I'll give it a moment. Oh, I think I've lost it. The Chromecast. Yeah, just to there though. I'll see if it's still on the stream. Yeah, I've got it on the stream, but not on the Chromecast. Yeah, what's the setting for it? But yeah, so we support a lot of different meetup groups across loads of different tech topics. But currently you can't see that, but you will in a second. Cool. And then I'll just make sure that that's working as well. Yeah, that's all good. Look, you can see the mirror of doom there. So that's definitely working. Sweet. Thanks, Milo. So yeah, loads of different meetup groups across loads of different tech topics as well. We've got a big Brighton AI event coming up as well with Peter Carl, who's our local MP, as well as the tech something so for the UK. So that's one that you'll be able to watch online as well, and there's like a few limited tickets coming out later in the month if you're interested in that, all about AI and AI for good in general. We want to say thank you to all of our supporters as well who support what we do. They allow us to live stream as well as come out to all of these events and talk to you guys, and a huge thank you to our continuous sponsors as well. Finally, there's one last link tree from me, which is our Slack channels. I believe there's a Brighton Blockchain Slack channel as well, where you can jump in and talk about all of the events afterwards. And maybe there's a question that you didn't quite get to ask. This is the place to jump on and get on it. Also, job opportunities as well, and just general community advice. So yeah, thank you very much for having me jump up.
Amazing, thank you. I will also say we are looking for sponsors at Brighton Blockchain. So if you do know anyone who would be willing to give us some money and pay for some pizza and maybe some alcoholic drinks at these events, please let me know. We're also looking for speakers. So if you know anyone who would want to speak at one of these events, or if you would yourself, please do let me know. Cool. So without further ado, please welcome Tiger Cox.
Thank you, Milo. Hello, everybody. My name's Tiger. I think I've met most of you at the Brighton Blockchain meetup over the year now that I've been going. And inevitably, people end up asking, like, oh, what do you do for a job? And I say, I teach people how to paraglide. And like, oh, mate, that's sick. You jump off cliffs. That's not what we do at all. So I was hoping in the next like half hour to just explain what paragliding actually is and how it works. And then some use cases and kind of crossovers that I see with the crypto space. And then hopefully that will kind of get you thinking about what you do for work or something else that you're passionate in, like AI, or I don't know, maybe you're into like pottery or something, and you can start joining those things in your head. Because I was just chatting with Mike and we were like, what blockchain really needs is more real world use cases. We can't just hide behind our screens forever. We want people to use this stuff in a decentralized way in the real world, not just on the computer. So I first started teaching paragliding about 10 years ago. I'm 26, so it was actually a bit earlier. I was 15, I got my license, and it can be quite scary because it's got a bit of a public image problem. When people arrive to learn paragliding, they think that, well, one, they're going to be jumping off a cliff and they're afraid of heights or something like that. And two, people always hear the negative stories. Instagram is full of people crashing their paraglider into a house or into the sea or something. And I feel like social media is also full of horror stories and scare stories about blockchain, about people losing their life savings, about the fact that you're going to get scammed, or that, you know, it quickly goes into extremes about what's going to happen in the industry. So I feel like there are some parallels there with paragliding and with blockchain. And when you actually look under the surface, what we're dealing with is like the most incredible flying machine ever built, and what I think is some pretty cool tech underneath the blockchain. So first, let's talk about paragliding. This is a paraglider. This was AI's attempt at joining blockchain and paragliding. And this is a parachute. So we are not parachuting. We don't jump off anything. We are gliding forwards through the air. There's never a period of free fall in the paraglider. If you're free falling, something's gone horribly wrong. So we do carry an emergency parachute that you can throw if something goes wrong on the main chute. But we are not parachutists. We're not being towed behind a boat. Sometimes people arrive and they think they're going to be parasailing, and they're quite disappointed when we head inland and away from the sea. And we're not hang gliding, although we did kind of come from hang gliding. That was the original thing. Has anyone been hang gliding? It was quite popular, like in the early 70s, people were making their own hang gliders, and they're kind of a rigid structure, very heavy. You have to carry that back up the hill in order to fly off again. And so it's kind of died out over the years and been replaced by paragliding. So those are the big misconceptions of like what I do for a living. I don't help people jump off stuff. I don't teach them how to hang glide, and I definitely don't tow them behind a boat. So now you're armed with this knowledge. It's foldable, so we can kind of compact it down, and it's very easy to learn. And I think that's also something that blockchain can work on. Like there's quite a high barrier to entry to blockchain, and you've got to be quite technically savvy before you can get involved. And if we can make that easier for people, then more people would have wallets and interact with all the systems that we like. We teach people using radios. This was up on the hill a couple of days ago, so that we can kind of guide them through where to fly or where not to fly. And taking off is pretty straightforward. So you just like lean forwards and run. This was out in Macedonia. I didn't even know that was a country until I went there, Macedonia. And then we take people abroad and we fly in the mountains. And it was while I was traveling year before last. I went all around Southeast Asia for 5 months with my little paraglider on my back. And I started to I was listening to these podcasts about blockchain, and I started to see like, oh, I could really do with not having to go to a currency exchange here and just have like stable coins that I could just go and use in this country. And there were lots of places where people had the same problems that could be solved if they could work together. And that's what blockchain excels at, isn't it? It's like connecting people together so that they can trust each other without necessarily having to trust each other. we all know what a blockchain was. I wasn't entirely sure of who the audience would be tonight, so I put this graphic in there. But it's a fascinating piece of tech, isn't it, where you have the computers running the code. And has anyone read Chris Dixon's book? You've read it? Yeah, it's it kind of talks about, like, especially the EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine. It's like a massive shared computer where we're all on the same page in terms of running a code. It's not just about like tokens and like making money. It's about everyone being on the same page in terms of the code that they're running. And I'm going to try and draw some parallels between the early days of paragliding and hang gliding and the early days of the internet. So originally there was email, and this is one of the things that Chris goes through in his book, but it's like a permissionless protocol where anyone could get involved with email. You didn't have to ask. And now we have to rely on the big providers like Google and Microsoft who filter all of our email. So something that starts out decentralized can, if you're not careful, be taken over by big companies who are like using the original spirit of the product and then just driving themselves as a wedge between you and what you want to do, message your mates. In the early days of hang gliding, people used to build their own hang gliders and have their own designs. And that's one of the use cases I'm going to have a look at. It's like, how could we make intellectual property a token and spread it out so that people could be incentivized to design stuff. The problem is that when people build their own things, inevitably it goes wrong sometimes. So when people build their own paragliders, you end up, some people get it wrong and they crash. So you have to have some standards. Like in the UK at the moment, we are trying to build standards for blockchain so that it's not entirely a free-for-all. But if you go too far, then you stifle innovation. So just thinking about like your own industry, so your own hobbies, like how much do you want people to just be able to do whatever they want? Does anyone drive here? Are you happy that when you go to a roundabout, you know that someone's going to give way to you? Like, you're happy that there are some rules there, aren't you? Otherwise it would just be like driving in Vietnam. So we want some rules, but not too many. Blockchains are quite geographically distributed. I know there's conversation we could have about whether they are enough geographic distribution, but certainly more than other businesses in terms of how spread out they are. And with paragliding, it's the same. You've got these paragliding sites all over the world. If you want to engage with paragliding, there's someone near you who can do that. If you want to engage with a blockchain, you can use a node that's near you. So in that way, they're both quite decentralized. And I started to see like, oh, this like blockchain could be quite useful for paraglider pilots because they are spread out geographically, and the blockchain is spread out geographically. And so now we get into some of the use cases which we can discuss. And I'm hoping that you'll have better ideas because I've tried to come up with these in my head, but hopefully you'll be able to think of some slightly better ones. So I was reading a post by Vitalik, the founder of Ethereum, and he was like, you can do prediction markets like Polymarket. Has anyone heard of Polymarket? It's like a place where you can buy shares in an outcome of an event. So like we could have shares in Tiger speaking less for the amount of time than he should have at Brighton Blockchain. And then people could buy yes answers, but then some people would know that I was going to talk forever and they'd buy the no. And then when the outcome was known at the end, the people who bought the no would get compensation for that. So you end up having like insiders who know that I was going to talk forever predict the right outcome because they were incentivized to do so. And I heard Vitalik talking about for very micro events, it's not really economically feasible to do this because to sit there and decide, oh, like, do I know Tiger? How long is he really going to talk for? That's going to take a lot of energy and it's not really worth the 50p that you're going to get for winning. But if you could train an AI to look at all of my previous talks and then spit out whether I'm going to talk for too long or not, it becomes a lot more economically feasible. The cost goes down. So I was like, how can we apply that to paragliding? What do we do in paragliding every day? And part of my job is every evening, I set a voicemail, which is for tomorrow's weather. And it has to be quite specific. If you fly in the wrong wind, you're going to get lifted up and blown off. So we have to get the weather right, and we have to get it right on a really small scale. So imagine like in Brighton, being able to predict exactly when it was going to rain. The apps are quite good at that these days, but what they're not as good at is deciding how hot the ground is going to get compared to the surrounding air, because they're not very good at knowing the moisture content. So really specific events get harder and harder to predict. But there are local people who have lived in Brighton all their lives who know exactly when the seagulls are going to start climbing higher, because they sit there and look out the window all the time. So those people can then train an AI and then use that in the prediction market to like earn revenue from being able to tell exactly what the weather was going to do on a very small scale. So I think one of the things that blockchain could be used for is a prediction market for weather on a very small scale. Does that make sense? I tried to articulate that. But if you could think of a better kind of prediction market, I'd be interested to hear it. And then another thing I mentioned, I was looking at different new projects in the blockchain space, and people are using the blockchain to kind of tie it to law. That was kind of a joke, because I kept bringing this big law textbook to the meetup, and it was like how England is going to treat blockchain assets, like whether they are partnerships or what exactly should people be forming companies. Like we can use the chain all we want, but then when we have to like actually pay for our bills, we've got to get that money out, and then how is that being regulated? Like how is the government treating us? And it turns out that if you can tie a token legally to some kind of intellectual property, like let's say we all sit down tonight and we come up with like an amazing design for a new glider that other people want to build, we want to be compensated with that. So we could create a token and it could have legally binding attributes that tie it to the design. And then if it does well, or if people want to sub-license it, we get paid because we're the legal owners of it. And you can do that with blockchain. You could airdrop that to every paraglider pilot all around the world. We've seen how geographically distributed they are. And then other people will be incentivized to design. And you end up with this kind of like flywheel of innovation, rather than it only being special certified manufacturers who can do that. It opens up the design space. And then this is another one. This was the original that I came up with Milo. We were talking about how hard it is for paraglider pilots to get their equipment insured, because we've got this like perceived risk attribute. Nobody really wants to back you in terms of insurance. I'm sure it's the same if you're trying to get a lot of Bitcoin insured. Like, people just perceive the market as more risky, so they're not going to insure you. So you could have a DAO that decides whether you get paid out or not. And it could be run by other pilots who know quite well whether you're being an idiot or whether that's genuinely just an accident. Have you seen that Ricky Gervais sketch where he's like, the insurance company won't pay out because it's an act of God? And he's like, well, if you believe in God, isn't everything an act of God? So they just wouldn't pay out at all. So by having a DAO, you could decide collectively whether you're going to put some of the money towards fixing that person's kit, or that they don't deserve it and you don't pay out. And then fantasy league teams. I like this idea because not many people know that you can compete with paragliders. Like once you learn the basics of how to take off and fly the glider, you can learn how to fly at different speeds. I like to kind of make my talks interactive. So if everyone jumps up a sec and just stands on your feet, I just want to show you like how you would change speed on a paraglider. So after you take off on the glider, you're sitting in this like little bucket seat and you have your hands out here to the side. So if you just put your hands out there for a moment, right? And then if you want to slow down, you pull down like this and the glider pitches back. And if you want to go faster, you put your hands up a little bit. And so if you want to go right, you pull down like this. If you want to go left, you pull down like this. And if you feel that the air is lifting on the left-hand side, you go over to the left, you steer over to the left, and you could slow down a bit. And then you go a bit higher. And then you might go round in a complete circle. You can sit down again now. But you can imagine what it would feel like to steer a glider around in a complete circle in the lift, so that the whole time that you're going round, you're also going up. And then you get high. Everybody would be at slightly different heights. And then you try and get to various different points on a map that can be spaced out over 100 kilometers. When we were flying in Macedonia, we were flying 70 kilometer tasks where we take off here and then fly 30k over here and fly 30k over here and try and get back to the end point. And whoever did it the fastest would win. But nobody knows that's going on because it's not really in the public sphere, is it? Like you don't see streaming of paragliding. It's not in the Olympics. but it's happening all the time, all over the world, different competitions. And if you could use blockchain to have like a fantasy league and make it fun to like follow a certain pilot and get a payout if they won a number of different competitions, then you get more people involved in blockchain, more people involved in paragliding. Win-win. Yeah. So there are official races, but you don't win any money. If you're lucky, you just win a glider. Yeah, I know. You're up there for 6 hours. You pour your heart and soul into this thing, and you risk your life flying around 100 kilometers. And then at the end, you're like, well done. Good job.
How long does it take?
It can take hours. Yeah. It can take like 4 or 5 hours. Depends how fast you're going. On full speed bar, if you tilt the nose right down, you can do about 70 kilometers an hour, which is not very fast by car standards, but it feels pretty fast when you're in a little bag hanging underneath it. So yeah, there we go. There's the end of my little talk and some ideas, or is it the beginning of a new era of thinking about connecting what we know already to blockchain and different projects? Does anyone have any questions about flying, about projects? Oh, well, look at that. I was having great fun. It doesn't really feel like it's doing anything, but it's quite comforting to hold. Should we start again?
Yeah, does anyone have any questions? Did you basically just teach us to paraglide going like this? Is that what it takes?
Yeah, that's actually how we start. That's on your very first day, you'd come along and we would teach you. I think there was a picture of people learning in the beginning. Yeah, here we go. So we're just like showing you how it works. But then today I had 6 people, and after half an hour I had them doing it completely by themselves, because it really is that simple. You've just got some lines that go to the back of the wing, like here and here, and you're just pulling on the brakes. And you can shift your body around as well, like you were on a motorbike. And by shifting your body, you like distort the whole wing, and you get to turn without the drag. So it's pretty fun. Yeah, people do get injured ultimately.
What is this? What they need to hear me?
Why wasn't it like that when I was speaking? It's a booming voice. I sound like a mouse.
Yeah, has anyone got injured while teaching it?
Sometimes people, usually when they're on the ground. We had a guy who had been doing some flying. He was doing pretty well, and then he was like carrying the glider, and he slipped on the material, and he fell over, and he broke his leg.
That's the only injury that happens.
It's usually to do with twisting your ankle. Yeah, when you're running along. But I mean, that would. No, luckily in the downs we've got like these gorse bushes, which are like green ones with spikes all over them, and they're quite soft, so you can slam into one of them and you bounce off. Yeah, soft but spiky. Soft for impact, but spiky for skin. It's hard to describe. Yeah, we try and avoid accidents.
Hey, you're talking about the fantasy league stuff. Wouldn't that be a way to introduce professional competitions into paragliding as well? You could have prize money.
Yeah,
via a coin, via a project.
Yeah,
that also had fantasy league stuff going on.
I don't know too much about fantasy league. I just know that paraglider pilots don't get paid, and I think a lot of pilots is a bit controversial to talk about, because if you commercialize something, it becomes like very competitive very fast, and the money comes in, and it can kind of take away the joy of interacting with nature. But I feel like the joy for a lot of people is already gone. They're already cutthroat. They're going to beat you. They're going to beat you. They don't really, they'd be doing it whether there was money involved or not. So we might as well get more people introduced to the idea of paragliding, because it would make it stronger as a sport. What I really like the idea of is you could verify. We collect a lot of data when we fly from the GPS track logs. You have to do it when you're competing. So you could quite reasonably have a smart contract set up that automatically pays you if you hit these GPS points. Then the question is, how do you stop people just tying the GPS to a drone and flying it at 100 miles an hour? But you could do something like that where you would get automatically paid out, and it can adjust by the number of people who have done the route. It's just all in the time of sitting down, writing the code and testing it, and making sure that other people don't abuse the system. Marlo and I were talking about like how you can permission this, because some of these projects, like if you're going to have an insurance DAO, you don't want just like anyone joining who's never like voting on whether a paraglider pilot should get paid out or not for their accident, for the fact they ripped the material. I'm not talking about like personal injury, because that's a different ballgame, but like minor claims. If you've never flown before, how are you going to judge that? So you could do like some kind of decentralized permissioning, where I like the idea of people like confirming that they met each other in person. Like all of us tonight could say that we've been here, and then our voice would be worth slightly more in deciding whether someone should get paid out for their blockchain theft or whatever. Or you could use the permission blockchain itself, at the very base layer.
I'll come back to you. That's fine.
Just listening to you just this last 2 or 3 minutes, and I suddenly saw the connection of the disconnect, if you see what I'm saying, that you're talking about right now, something which basically blockchain and adventure.
Yeah.
And as guys, Brighton blockchain know, what I'm setting up is something which is going to be a real world impact type thing. It's, the first project really is aimed for North Africa, for Morocco, and real things happening. I mean, like up around Falmer, for instance, they've got an Earthship, right? Earthship.
Is this like a building made of Earth?
I'm
gathering
built
it's not a ship
out of
made of Earth.
recycled materials, solar panels, windmill, huge amount of earth rammed into car tires, which soaks up the heat during the summer, and it emanates heat through the winter. Can live in the middle of a desert, and that's what we've kind of said that would be our pilot project, to make an Earthship in the Sahara, and then we could get digital nomads to come over and blah 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 blah. So it suddenly just clicked that that's the ultimate disconnect between the blockchain and adventure. People don't see the blockchain as being a means to an adventure, a real world. They see it as a cerebral or a computer. The nearest thing they're going to get is a studio tan, put it that way.
Yeah. And I think it's it would be interesting to have more like adventure-based projects, because we all want to do adventurous stuff. Maybe not paragliding, but something outdoors where we connect to the real world and do stuff with other people.
Just following up literally what you're just saying, but like supposing you did have some digital nomads that went over to help to build and be involved in a makerspace in the Saharan Atlas, shall we say. There's plenty of adventure around there. I mean, you can go in the Sahara on camels and all sorts of stuff. And of course, everything can be geolocated these days.
Yeah.
Everything.
I think that's like Sweatcoin, wasn't it? Did something like that, where you could tie physical activity to earning a token.
Sorry?
Yeah, Sweatcoin.
Oh, right. Yeah.
All right. Yes. I wish to try paragliding one day, because I haven't actually done it yet.
Take you up, Elliot.
Definitely on my bucket list.
You already know 50%.
Yeah. Yeah. But a slightly different question about banks with crypto, because I personally use Revolut, but I've noticed like with the decentralized side of things, like how far do you think that will go, like in terms, because I've already seen that on Revolut sometimes if you have a crypto transaction, it will be processing for like 3 hours. It'll be like, we're checking this transaction. So there's a little bit of control already in sort of it's sort of more centralized already. It's like, how far do you think banks will go? So they love control. So,
well, I'll preface this with, I'm good at sounding like I know what I'm talking about, but I know nothing about banks. I know a lot about paragliders. I do have a Revolut bank account, and I've moved crypto around with it. It's just, yeah, it does worry me sometimes that banks are like jostling to take control of crypto before everyone else gets involved.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that we keep having like our own self-custody wallets, learning how to use Trezor and Ledger, and learning how to do it ourselves so that we don't completely rely on them. That's the beauty of the crypto system.
Yeah.
And then we can worry about later how they want to make sure that we're not fraudsters. But
yeah,
we're living and interacting in Brighton. We're not like overseas companies in Dubai. We're like real people.
Yeah. Yeah. No, cool. Thank you.
But there we go. How am I on? So I was going to ask, you'd already explained it. It was more like the integrity, say how to maintain the integrity of the actual networks. So say like with people, how to stop someone from actually say sabotaging it. So say if they're going around on the paragliding, how to stop someone who's actually trying to sabotage it for everyone else. It's a case of, and then what you were saying about the banks is, of course, you've got those coming. They would come after it. So would we have kind of things in place to be like, look, we're all an organization here. We're all.
Well, maybe that's where it comes to what Andy said about being like permission blockchain at the base layer.
Yeah.
I don't particularly like that idea, but I like the idea of, as I said, people like in person saying that they've met someone else, and that being the basis for whether like how heard you are. Like we want to decide collectively who gets heard. We don't want to all just like, Milo's great, but we don't want to all just say to Milo, you decide who speaks at Brighton Blockchain, like during the meetup. That'd be horrible, wouldn't it?
Doesn't
like,
it? Yeah.
We as a collective, we already kind of do that. Like we know what's going on. So I think we have to be careful in like limiting people's access. We're just going to have to design a system that can't be gamed, like you're saying, so that people can't ruin it for everyone else.
But in a way, it should protect itself in a way anyway. With what
hopefully,
you're saying
we'll
about
see.
Hopefully.
We'll see. Yeah, we were talking about a hypothetical kind of fantasy leagues or insurance DAOs or shared IP. How do you stop this all being gamed? That's what we've got to work out. That's what we've got to discuss. That's why I come on a Wednesday. Try and figure that out.
Thank you.
I've got a question.
Okay.
It might be a bit difficult, but I want to ask about the Oracle problem, because one of the difficult things with, firstly, with decentralized insurance is working out whose claim is genuine, you know, who's actually got injured or damaged or whatever. One of the things with weather and with prediction markets for weather is how do they get resolved? Like who feeds into the system what the weather actually was in the end? One of the problems with having, you were talking about like GPS coordinates like sent into a system.
Yeah.
And again, like verifying whether they are true or somehow falsified. Do you have any ideas on like Oracle systems to feed that into a blockchain and you know, get to some reasonably acceptable source of truth for real world events?
Oracles. I mean, aren't there already projects really working on this, like Chainlink and like decentralized oracles? There are already billions of dollars washing around that rely on a reliable oracle that's not going to lie. So they use like lots of different oracles. So maybe the solution would be to go back to like our permissioned set of people that we decide as a collective. So it's not one person deciding, yeah, you can use the chain, you can use protocol, you can use protocol, you can't. You decide, you have like an initial set of trusted people that you have in person, and then they go out and meet people, and that expands like that. And then you can use them as the oracles for the weather feed in. I think there are already weather, I saw on like Sweet Chain, they're using the weather as a randomness generator because it's very random, all the particles moving in the atmosphere. and randomness generated the computer is like somewhat deterministic because it's being run by code. They're using the weather as a randomness generator. So I'm sure there's a way.
Cool.
I don't have any ideas yet. That's what you're here for.
Any other questions?
Okay.
No other questions.
All good. It looks
All
like
right.
you're all going to have to come and learn to fly. Thank you very much for listening. It's
Well
been
done.
great.
Thanks very much. And thanks for coming. Again, I'm going to say we're looking for sponsors and we're looking for speakers. So if you know anyone, let me know. That's it. Thanks.